Okay.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back to the Solution Podcast. We are live. Third time lucky. We had technical difficulties, but we're persevering.
Yeah, it was Kobe's fault.
Yeah, it's my fault.
we're gonna persevere. And we're gonna bring you this. We're gonna bring you this content, no matter what kind of gremlins are in the system.
Yeah,
exactly.
So, they can't stop free speech, man.
You can't. You can try, but we'll keep coming back. So this is a reaction, Piers Morgan and Just Pearl. And before we get into it, guys, please subscribe to the channel, like the videos, check out our previous videos. We're building up a eclectic collection now of interesting topics, thought-provoking topics, stuff people want to hear. So check it out. It's yeah, tell us what you think.
Yeah, and share it, guys. Spread it everywhere. Make sure everyone is aware of it. You know what I'm saying? Make sure everyone knows about it. You know what I mean? Because our type of content promotes free speech. Don't ever forget that. Our type of content promotes free speech.
Yeah. KD, we're back. They tried to stop us, but they didn't succeed.
Salute to KD. Salute to KD.
Shout out KD. And yeah, we're there on all social media as well, so that's a great place to share things. And
exactly. Yeah, let's get right into it, guys, man. Let's get right into it.
Okay. Do we really have freedom of speech?
No, we don't. We don't have really freedom of speech. Doesn't exist. We have selected freedom of speech. Sorry, selective freedom of speech. We have freedom of speech that's allowed. I call it allowed freedom of speech. They allow you to talk about what they want you to talk about. That's the type of freedom of speech that we have. It's very selective. So no, we don't really have freedom of speech, in my opinion, from what I've seen. And I think cancel culture is another way of saying you don't have freedom of speech.
Yeah. It's the proof that they're censoring everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what Piers Morgan's saying.
All right.
Welcome back to Piers Morgan Uncensored. Pearl Davis is the self-styled anti-feminist influencer who's creating major buzz online with a contrarian view. She's appeared in a couple of debates on this show. It's called Uncensored after all. We welcome any honestly held opinions. But this week, she's facing a major backlash for posting a song titled Why Can't We Talk About the Jews, which she dedicated to far-right commentator Nick Fuentes before later deleting it.
Why can't we talk about the without getting kicked off of YouTube? Now, I'm not saying Hitler was a good guy, but I kind of want to know why. Now there's all these conspiracy theories, and the more they talk, I think maybe they're right. But I can't even listen to the convo.
Well, Pearl joins me now, along with the New York author and founder of End Jew Hatred, Brooke Goldstein, over in the States. All right, Pearl, you've come on the show a couple of times, right? We've had some spirited debates about feminism and stuff like that.
Yo, pause a minute, guys. Apparently, the background to this is she recorded this song, and what Katie rightly said, they didn't she put it down. She took it down because of the backlash that she was getting for it. So right there, straight off the bat, you know, just without Piers Morgan, when she actually recorded the song and she put it out there, people already had an issue with it. There was all sorts of backlash. But according to her, apparently she was invited to this show, and this was not supposed to be the topic of the session. She was never they were never supposed to talk about. She was never invited to talk about this particular topic. So, and they the topic that they told her they were going to talk about, they switched it at the very last minute.
Crazy.
So according to her, this was a setup. That's what she said anyway.
So
According-
so that sounds like what they tried to do to Andrew Tate with the BBC interview.
Yeah,
Right.
that's exactly what I was alluding to. That's exactly what I was bringing attention to. It's the same thing with Andrew Tate. It's what BBC always does. It does what it wants to do. So they'll come in, they'll agree something with you beforehand, and then when it comes down to actually executing the interview, they'll switch everything and they'll try and catch you out in order to get some kind of reaction from you. You see what I'm saying? And if you actually look at her face, she looks surprised. Surprised. Okay, so that's what made me believe a little bit of what she's saying. But yeah, well, according to her, because she did a reaction to this, and I watched that reaction. And she did say that they were not supposed to talk about this topic, so she got actually set up, according to her.
I think I can see that. I can see that.
But do you guys have any issues with the song so far?
No, not me personally.
No, I haven't got any issues with the song. I think it's funny. It's a funny, harmless song, basically.
But like you probably get some Jews might be offended, but there's songs out there. There's songs out there that people find offensive, but it's still out there. So,
but to be fair, all she's really saying is, why is it that we can't talk about certain things? You know what I mean? Why is it that we can't talk about certain things?
I mean, the rappers get to talk about women as bees and hoes. Like women got offended, but it continues. It still goes on, and the rappers still go on thrive. So how come the you can't talk about their community, and even though they don't like it, basically, because there's lots of stuff people don't like, but it still gets put out there like that.
Go on. Sorry.
No, it still gets put out like that, and there's no like slaps on the wrist, but
But hold on. To be fair as well, bro, she did mention Hitler, so she's not just talking about the Jews. She's talking about the Jews in the context of mentioning Hitler. So we have to be fair from both sides. You see what I'm saying? Maybe it's not about necessarily talking about the Jews, but it's talking about the Jews in a certain context. In this case, would be in terms of mentioning Hitler. But even then, I do believe that you should be able to talk about it. If this is freedom of speech, you should be able to talk about it, regardless of whether people like it or not. If we truly have freedom of speech, then you should be allowed to talk about any topic. Because if you can't talk about this topic, then who's to say you can talk about any other topic in the future? Because it hurts a certain type of group, because it upsets a certain type of group. So do we really have freedom of speech if we can't talk about certain things?
But people do talk about Hitler though, right? Like they educate you
in the context of the Jews. In the context of the Jews. Do you see what I'm saying?
Even the Jews talk about Hitler. But I feel like because they're not controlling the narrative, they've got an issue. Because they're happy to educate you about Hitler. They're happy to tell you about Hitler. As long as
you're talking bad about Hitler.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a certain narrative that's only allowed. So it all depends on the narrative that you're talking about.
But she's talking about Hitler. Sorry to cut you. She's talking about Hitler in a neutral context, I feel. She's not talking about him hurting Jewish people. She's not talking about him and inciting violence on Jewish people. She's just mentioning his name in context, in neutral context. And I think that's fair play.
Yeah, but the thing is, what she's saying is alluding to the whole idea that maybe the Holocaust didn't happen and so on, because those people that anyways, we're gonna get into it in the reaction. You guys are gonna talk. Yeah, let's go. Let's not. Yeah.
Okay.
And I thought you'd made some good points, and it's got lots of traction. Then I wake up the other day and I see this thing that's trending involving you doing this song. and I couldn't really believe what I was watching. I didn't know why did you find it funny?
Huh?
Did you find it funny? I mean, you know the backlash to it. I mean,
I think she finds this whole situation funny. Like she's being dropped in it. I think
It's
that's
a
what she's
nervous
really,
part, isn't it?
yeah, that's what she's really laughing about, not the song. She's confused of where the direction of this conversation is going.
Yo, do you know what I find funny? Is the way Piers Morgan is talking about it. It's like I woke up the other morning and I see that you've been saying this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
It's almost like I'm in control and I can't believe what I'm hearing, bro. It's like
yeah.
I wake up and I'm seeing this on my radar. I'm like, what's going on with Just Pearls, bro? You know what I'm saying? We gotta bring it in. Like he's almost talking like he's in charge of the situation and he's the overseer and he's out here to check people, make sure people are on the path that they should be. You see what I'm saying? Like that's the impression that I'm getting from the way he's talking. I woke up the other morning and then I see this nonsense on my screen. You know, my phone is going up. And now he has to check her. It's like, who made you?
It's like it's the worst thing he's ever seen.
Yeah. It's like, who made him the judge?
Yeah,
like,
he's the authority now.
He's the authority, he's the authority. And he's the one in charge of making sure like that everyone is out here moving the way they should be moving. Otherwise, they're breaking the rules.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
All right, let's go ahead.
You deleted it. You obviously thought you shouldn't have posted it.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you do that? Genuine question.
I mean, the point was more about cancel culture and people getting kicked off of social media if you finished the song. It was more about, like, you can't talk about this topic without being canceled by the left and the right. I don't really have a strong opinion either way. It was kind of just like tongue-in-cheek. I didn't really expect it to get that crazy. It wasn't dedicated to anyone. I don't know why they say that, but that's not true.
I mean, Nick Fuentes is a white supremacist. He's a Holocaust denier. He said afterwards that you had dropped a diss track on the Jews, which he clearly took to be something which was, mocking Jewish people, talking about, I'm not saying Hitler was a good guy, but I want to know why. What do you want to know why?
Well, it was more like, why can't we talk about it? It wasn't like...
We talked about the more conspiracy theories you've heard about Hitler and the Holocaust, presumably.
I'm a fan of conspiracy theory. Like, people think I'm part of the CIA. There's a whole conspiracy thing online. And, I'm not for, like, silencing it either way. The point of the song isn't, like, I really have an opinion on the matter. It's more... I don't think we should ban people off of social media. So far so that I think it should be illegal to ban anybody off of social media unless they're inciting violence. That was the point of the song. I'm not really... It was more like tongue-in-cheek.
But just to be clear, what are the conspiracy theories surrounding Hitler, which you feel the more you hear them, the more you're interested in them?
Well, I don't know, because I can't hear them.
Huh?
I don't know.
The ones that Nick Fuentes...
Well, I wasn't even talking about Nick. I was thinking of Ye, to be honest. I don't know why
Yeah.
Oh my days.
Yeah.
The first thing that she mentioned is the fact that they never finished the song. That's another BBC tactic. They only select what they want to play in order to make you look like a certain way. You see what I'm saying? They're not fair. That's the first thing. And second, it's funny that everything that she's saying is based on, like, freedom of speech. Why is it that we can't talk about it? Why is it that we can't have the discussion? Why is it that we can't listen to other people's point of views, even if they differ from ours? Why is it? Yeah. But it's funny. He's not. Piers Morgan is more interested in. Is that what is it that you want to talk about? You know what I'm saying? Like the Jews. What is it that she's not saying that? She's saying is, why can't we just have the conversation?
Yeah. Yeah. She's basically saying, why are we not allowed to talk about it?
Yeah.
So,
but he's
to notice the direction that Piers Morgan is taking.
Yeah, and Piers Morgan is trying to redirect, re-steer the narrative of her, what she's saying. He's not even acknowledging what she's saying. He's just moving her. He's like, she's talking, telling him what the song was about. first of all, they said the song was dedicated to Nick Fuentes. She clearly said it wasn't dedicated to Nick Fuentes. She was inspired by Kanye. So that's like, they really trying to put words in her mouth and direct her to the narrative they want to get from this content. And it's weird that they're trying to do this when she's there. Like, if she wasn't there and he did like a news report and said it, I would get it. But she's there defending herself, setting the record straight, and he's just ignoring what she's saying and continuing with his narrative, like, which is crazy.
And I think that's the reason why they cut off the ending.
Yeah,
because she's basically just making a point about lack of freedom of speech. That's the whole point of the song. That why is it, you know what I mean? Like, she's saying that there's a lack of freedom of speech. And he's not interested in that. He's not trying to, understand her point. He's not trying to do any of that. Like Kobe said, he's just trying to redirect the conversation.
Yeah.
So that he can keep pushing his narrative and make her look a certain type of way. Yeah. That's actually quite malicious when you think about it.
Yeah. Like, he should be like pulled up on this. I reckon that shouldn't go unchecked. Like, he's meant to be a professional journalist, man. That's not professional.
Come on, bro. That will never happen. Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
Nick was the inspiration for that song. I was thinking of Ye.
You are aware of the big backlash to this and the deep upset from the Jewish community.
I certainly am now. I just posted that song and I woke up and I was like, article. I was like, golly.
Right, but are you sorry?
Crazy. I think that my whole point was that cancel culture is wrong. I'm not speaking one way or the other about the issues. My question is, why are we canceled for talking about certain topics?
So you would allow Holocaust deniers to have space on social media to promote Holocaust denial to millions of people? You have 2 million people who subscribe to your YouTube, right? Mm-hmm. That's a big audience of people.
I'm not at 2 million yet. I'd like to be.
Right, but you have a lot of people that follow you on various social media platforms. You put a video like that up, and there are going to be some impressionable young minds going, hang on, what's Pearl saying? Adolf Hitler?
Shout out to John Michelle. Shout out, bro. It's good. I hope you're good. Again, we see him. Guys, let me ask you guys one question. Would you allow Holocaust deniers, even though that's not the point that she's alluding to, even though that's not the point that she's trying to bring out, yeah? Would you, a question for you guys, would you allow Holocaust deniers to have their say on the internet?
Yeah. Like, every so long as it's not inciting violence, everyone should get to say their piece.
Yeah, he's just saying, he's giving his perspective, and I don't think you could ignore that, especially when it comes from a very knowledgeable and educated place. He's not just randomly saying stuff to annoy people. He's got a logical kind of history of where this is all coming from, and it does make sense when you hear it. Yeah.
Would you allow Holocaust deniers to have a say?
Yeah.
On the internet, would you allow them to be able to talk about it?
Yeah.
Okay, because what Thingy is saying, what's his name? Piers, is almost like the way he phrased it. It's almost as if you say anything about the that he phrased it in such a way that he's trying to imply that anyone who says anything about the Holocaust or denies the Holocaust or has an opinion that's contrary to the mainstream, then that should be looked as something that is wrong.
Yeah,
and it shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah.
I guess it's because it goes against the narrative, right? The narrative. I mean, I'm sure like I'm not denying the Holocaust. Like if there's a group denying the Holocaust, I hope they're coming with some solid evidence. And if they've got evidence,
even if they don't, bro,
yeah,
should they be allowed to deny the Holocaust, even if you don't have, even if you let's say you don't have some real solid evidence,
yeah,
and you just look at it and you're like, you know what, I don't really agree with it. Should you be allowed to express that opinion on the internet? Because what he's saying is those people shouldn't be allowed to express that opinion.
yeah.
I would just simply say.
Yeah, it's almost like you have to agree with what we are telling you. If we told you it happened, it happened. You are not allowed to think anything beyond that, and let alone coming on social media and expressing it.
Yeah,
And of course, he's also trying to allude to the fact that he's trying to say that if you do it, then that will what might happen if the same thing that happened with the Jews at Hitler's time might happen again. Is also trying to imply that if people, I think this is where this is all coming from, is if you keep saying and people keep denying something, what it will do is will build up some level of hatred towards people, and the very same thing that happened to them in 1940s will happen again.
I disagree with that. I don't think things are going to happen again by banning what people think and say.
So on the internet. But that's the scare tactics that they're using to say that that's the reason why. You know what I'm saying? And it could all come back again. Sorry, go ahead, Kobe. Sorry.
Oh, so they're actually scared. They're actually scared of even though it's a lie, that people are still gonna believe in it, and
I don't think they're scared.
And act on it, like the Jewish community.
Yeah, I don't think they're scared. I think what it is they want, that's the excuse that they're using. That's the reason that they're giving. But I don't think they're scared at all.
Yeah, I would say so. Like that's rooted in fear. That's rooted in fear because ultimately, if people aren't believing in the narrative, like they fear the whole history repeating itself. I would imagine.
Yeah, but the thing is, would you agree with should fear be used to shut down freedom of speech?
Yeah, I mean fear, like fear in the sense of inciting violence. When it gets that bad, then that's because it's fear.
No. What I'm saying is, in that case, if fear should be used to ban freedom of speech, then I could be scared about other things as well, and you would have to basically validate my fears as well. So what I'm saying is the end point is we can't talk about anything because just like the Jews are fearful of that happening, guess what? Black people might also be fearful of certain things happening. Other groups of people might be fearful of certain things happening. And so in that case, should fear be good enough to stop freedom of speech?
Yeah. I mean, that's the only reason why you would stop freedom of speech, because of fear. That's the only reason why anyone would stop freedom of speech. What the real question is, at what degree of fear do you stop freedom of speech? And it's usually I feel it should be to the degree that it could incite violence. In terms of freedom of speech and causing fear, if it's not tangible, if it's not dangerous yet, then like it's all good. But yeah, that's John Rochelle, Truth Seeker. Holocaust denial should not be allowed online.
Wow.
Okay, yeah. Oh. So he reckons they shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah.
Well, Holocaust denial should not be allowed online. So that means anyone who denies the Holocaust should not be allowed on the internet. Do you guys agree with that?
No, I don't agree with that.
I disagree.
So that means you cancel everyone that doesn't agree with the Holocaust. And also, just to quickly mention here,
bro, you want to come on and elaborate?
just to the thing is,
Yeah.
when it comes to Nick Fuentes and this whole Holocaust thing, he doesn't actually deny that it ever happened. What he says is that the numbers are not as much as are reported, and he gives his reasons, historical reasons for why he thinks that. Now, it's not necessarily that I agree with what he's saying or not, but I like to listen to what his point of view is.
Yeah.
Even though my point of view is different, he's got his well, he's like got a thesis, and he's got his what he's got his historical evidence to back it. So yeah, it makes for interesting listening.
Yeah, because personally, I don't know why. I mean, yeah, like if they haven't got solid evidence, but they're saying it, the regular person, I would imagine, is just going to dismiss whatever they're saying if they're not coming with good logic.
This is exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't care if someone has good logic or not. I don't care if someone is offering a lot of evidence or not. My point is, if we're talking about freedom of speech, people should still be allowed to express their opinion, regardless of how wrong it is, regardless of how right it is. Because if we're going to use fear to stop people from expressing freedom of speech, then where does it stop? Then you'd have to basically, anytime someone is fearful of anything, guess what? The other person is no longer allowed to express an opinion on that person or on that group or on that particular situation. And this is what I'm trying to say. So what he's basically saying, what Piers Morgan is basically saying is, it's like, look, listen, these people are fearful of this. Therefore, whatever you say against this particular situation is wrong. And it shouldn't be allowed online. That's basically what he's trying to.
Just like that. Just like that.
Yeah, if that's the case, then bro, everyone on earth, every group of people can find things that they're fearful about. So what would that do? If everyone is completely fearful about, if everyone has something to be fearful about, that will eventually lead to the death of freedom of speech. So no one will no longer be allowed to talk about anything, because every single person, you know, it's like, you can't talk about me. I'm fearful of this. You can't talk about that. They're fearful of that. So you can't have an opinion.
But then after that, you basically need a list of all the things you're not allowed to talk about. Like anyone doing anything on the internet, we now need a list.
There you go.
What can we talk about? What can't we talk about? And you just got to stick to the list.
And that list is going to get longer and longer. It's going to get crazy.
That's the problem.
It's going to get unreasonable. Like with regards to this situation, like with her song, I mean, there's no immediate threat. Like the Jewish community are not facing any immediate threat. I think like society's wise enough to shut it down if there was to be like a movement to see the Jewish community as you know, as a problem or have hatred towards them. I reckon that I think we're all wise enough to separate freedom of speech compared to what Hitler did, because we're not even talking about what Hitler did. We're just talking about freedom of speech.
Yeah, exactly. What Hitler did was a political it was a political hit job. You know what I mean? It's completely different from your average Joe online or your average Nick online expressing his opinion about something. You see what I'm saying? So what Hitler did was orchestrated, it was planned, it was a political hit job, and that's something completely different than, you know what I mean, what most people, how most people would basically, you know, it's different from how most people would basically give their opinion. People are just basically saying whether they agree with something or not. They don't necessarily here orchestrating a political job on a certain group of people. You see what I'm saying? Just by offering your opinion. But I was just trying to show you guys how it's so easy to stop freedom of speech under these pretenses. That's all. But let's go with the reaction.
But you know what? Like, shout out to the Jewish community for having the power to shut it down so early.
Yeah,
like all they did, all this is like just putting your head above ground. Like there's nothing emerging from like a song like this, and they've got the power to shut this down.
But bro, I can't even give him a shout out for that, because I find anyone suspect. Anyone, I don't care who you are, I don't care what your skin tone is, I don't care what your race is. Anyone who stops freedom of speech or who stops other people from having a different opinion from you, to me, is very dangerous. That is very dangerous.
Absolutely, it's power. It's power, right?
No, it's power, but that type of power can be very dangerous, because what did we see in the Nazi regime? If you spoke against Hitler, or if you spoke against the Nazis, or if you said anything that they didn't agree with, guess what? They come for you. So what I'm saying is, yes, they have the power to do that, but I don't think that's good in the long term for society.
I don't think it's good, but I think it's respectable that they've managed to accomplish that. That's a big accomplishment.
Guys, can I make a quick point?
Go ahead, bro. Yes, what's going on, bro?
First of all, thanks for having me on, guys. Again, respect and
come on, man, every time.
Salute.
But can I just make? So I think that there's a big difference between freedom of speech. We have to make the distinction between freedom of speech and hate speech. So when Pearl, the song that Pearl did, I would put it under the class of freedom of speech, because it's an opinion. In her opinion, Jews are not. We can't talk about Jews openly because of double standards or perceived protected status. That's an opinion. I share some of that opinion as well, to be honest. But I think when we talk about Holocaust denial, that's not an opinion, because that's an historical. That's historically incorrect. It's infactual, because we know the Holocaust did happen. That there's tangible evidence to show that it's happened. There's people whose families died. There's testimonies. There's literal physical remnants of what they did, that the Nazis did. So I think that comes under the scope of hate speech, because what you're doing now is you're literally adding. You're not respecting the dead, people's dead family members. You're not respecting the fact that atrocities were done and people were killed under the guise of Nazism. And to me, that actually can cause harm, psychological harm, and not to mention the disrespect of people whose family members have died. And I don't think that's acceptable. There's something similar happening now in America, where people are trying to say that black people benefited from slavery. That's a new narrative that's coming out. Now, if people are putting that online, again, that's not historically accurate. When black people left slavery, they literally were left in the streets and were thrown in prison. There's no tangible way you can show how they benefited from slavery. Historically, that's incorrect. So if people are saying that online, that would be would come under the guise of hate speech, in my opinion, because it's not a valid opinion. You can all have opinions, but when we start going down the road of making historical inaccuracies, which then inadvertently disrespect people's family members or ancestors, because if we're saying this Holocaust didn't happen, then we're saying that the Nazis weren't that bad. Essentially, that's what you're saying, that they weren't that bad. They weren't murderers. They weren't psychopaths, etc. That's what you're saying, and that in itself is unacceptable, and as I said, disrespectful to people who they did kill.
John, but the thing is, the way I look at freedom of speech is you should be allowed to say things that people don't agree with, even if they are incorrect. That's the whole point of freedom of speech. Now, inciting violence, that's a whole nother thing.
Not if it causes harm. Not if it causes harm, though. If it's causing harm to whole groups of people, that's where the hate speech is factored in.
Well, Jean,
but would you agree that anything can cause harm to people? Anything could be deemed. If we're going to go down that path, then anything that anyone ever says could be regarded as, for example, you could be saying something about, I don't know what it is. Yeah, it could be anything. Anyone could turn around and say, well, that causes harm to me. So wouldn't that eventually, like in a sense, stop freedom of speech down the road?
Yeah, it'll be
I think
considered hate speech.
I think it's definitely dependent on I think obviously the case by case thing here. I think when you're talking about things that happen in history, atrocities that happen in history, where thousands of people were perished, and there was a whole regime and an ideology that we can see and hear that promoted that atrocity, and there's actual victims that are still alive in terms of people's ancestors and victims who have ancestors who died in it. I think that we have to treat. There got to be some level of sensitivity with certain topics, not all topics, but certain topics. There has to be a sense of sensitivity around it, and you can't which means you can't just have people saying anything.
But is it to the point? Is it to the point? Is it to the point where no one can ever talk about it or have a different opinion from it? So, for example, everyone, hold on. Everyone, when we look at history, everyone, even when we look historically speaking, people have different, depending on how much people have studied history, people will draw up different conclusions depending on how knowledgeable they are about history. So even historically speaking, you will find amongst historians that they have different perceptions on how something that's historical happened. So what I'm basically saying is, even that ignorant guy that doesn't understand nothing, should he not be allowed to say something dumb? Because I understand freedom of speech in this way, that even someone that's completely dumb, completely ignorant, should still be allowed to say something as ignorant as slavery didn't happen or the Holocaust didn't happen. That's the way I understand freedom of speech. The way I understand freedom of speech is in that way, that even someone that's stupid should still be allowed to say something as stupid as, "Oh, slavery didn't happen. Oh, the Holocaust didn't happen."
The thing about all this is, like, where do we draw the line?
Yeah.
Because, like, we can't talk about certain things because certain groups are oversensitive, but when then you see other groups might not be sensitive at all, so we can talk about those things. It's difficult. We're not treating everyone, and we're not treating historical with a completely, like, history with a completely kind of with the same view, if you know what I mean. Because, like, so the way societies are now is that they have they've given some people a free license to be oversensitive about their history, where others really don't care. It's like, okay, it happened. Like this might have happened to my people thousands of years ago. You can actually say what you want; it doesn't affect them. But yeah, I just find it difficult where we draw the line now, because there's a lot of different communities knocking about with a lot of bad. Like, there's been atrocities been happening in history throughout from the beginning of history. So that's just what I think.
Yeah, I agree, because, like, if you're gonna make a rule, it's got to be consistent. It's got to be universal. Like the people who are like saying slavery didn't happen, has any, like, consequences happen to them? Is any outrage has happened to them, or are they like left to it to freely, like, and, like, you know, share their opinions on how they perceive the different, how they have a different perception of how slavery happened? Or are they, like, getting shut down as well, like how the Jewish community are shutting down Pearl?
That's a good question. I haven't really heard anyone talk about that.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
I just think it's like, where I'm mostly thinking about what's going to happen down the line, and I can see different groups or different communities coming out of the woodwork and coming out and saying, well, this happened to my people, so you're no longer allowed to talk about this. This happened to my people, so you're not allowed to have a different opinion about this. This happened to my whatever. And I'm just wondering what that will do for freedom of speech along the line. So I'm just trying to see what would the outcome be. But John Michel is right. If something is historical, of course, people are. If something has happened and it's a historical fact, people will be sensitive to that. and is absolutely 100% right. But the thing is, what I would say to that is, yeah, then expect a backlash from those people. But should that be enough to stop people from expressing their opinions, even if it's wrong historically?
Yeah, I think they should definitely be allowed to backlash. If people want to backlash, let them backlash. But the whole deleting and cancelling people, I think, is a mistake.
Yeah. Let's carry on then, guys. John, unless you want to say something to that, bro. Is John there? Okay. All right, let's carry on then.
Not saying he's a good guy, but I want to know why. The more conspiracies theories I hear, the more I have to think about it. But I took that to mean that you agree with Fuentes.
Why did you cut off the end of the song? I said, but we can't even have the conversation.
What is the conversation you want to have?
Without being canceled by the left and the right. The point is any speech.
No,
I think
it's not any speech. It's not any speech. What is the conversation about Hitler and conspiracy theories and the Holocaust that you want to have?
I don't want to have any conversation. My lane is feminism. That's what
you're singing about Adolf Hitler.
Can I finish?
Yeah, but you are singing about Hitler.
Okay.
So you do want to have that conversation.
I want anybody that wants to speak on social media to be able to speak about what they want to talk about,
including Holocaust
without getting banned. Whatever they want to talk about,
including Holocaust denial.
If they want to talk about that, as long as they're not inciting violence, I think people.
Also inciting violence. They're inciting
hatred. I think that
people.
Social media is the new town square, right? You used to be able to go and say your opinions in the town square. Now we have corporations censoring what can and cannot be said. And I think that's wrong. I think that should be illegal.
Well, let me bring in Brooke, who's been listening to this. Brooke, I don't think Pearl quite understands why the wording of this song, which she deleted, to be clear, so obviously realised this had not played out maybe the way she hoped.
Quick question: if that was you guys, would you have deleted it after putting up? I would have deleted it. I would have, unless they like take it down. I would have kept it up there.
Someone must have definitely advised her to delete it.
You reckon?
Her management or whatever.
Yeah. Someone advised her to delete it. Yeah. They saw the backlash and then they advised her to delete it. But me personally, I mean, if this is what I'm trying to say. Do we live in a freedom of speech world, or we don't? Because if it's freedom of speech, then she should have kept it up. You see what I'm saying? If it's not freedom of speech, then yeah, this is what I'm trying to say. And the fact that she was brought in by Piers Morgan, the fact that she was brought in to even talk about this, the fact that happened, that just lets you know that freedom of speech basically is being regulated. You know what I mean? It's being controlled. It's being it's being controlled to this level, to the level that they can say, you know what, we don't agree with that, so we're going to bring you in and try to attack you for having that opinion. Because all she's really saying is, we can't even have the conversation. That's what it's like. You're not even allowed to get to that point where you have the conversation.
Yeah,
that's the issue.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if Pearl's team all agreed to put it up there, and then they felt the backlash and agreed to take it down, and now they've all agreed to come on Piers Morgan and say she should be justified to say something like that. I think this from their part, this lacks conviction on their belief that what they did was an okay thing. Like, I feel like if she's here arguing that we should have be able to like say things like this, and it wasn't struck, like, you know, I mean they probably, because I don't like how they're making her feel guilty, or like making her feel like she did something wrong when she's outrightly saying she doesn't have that sentiment. I just feel like by keeping it up there, it would have justified her position, her argument more, rather than, because I feel like they're leaning into her and she's struggling because they're throwing that at her that she took it down because she knows it was wrong and she's got nothing to say because she didn't keep it up, and they can hold it against her basically.
I just want to say something that KD said. KD said that the deniers should be educated, and deniers are wrong. So that she should attempt to educate them.
Yeah.
So basically, you can't educate them unless you allow them to speak.
Yes.
So
that's it all goes back to that. This is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, you have to be allowed to speak to get re-educated or to get extra information that you might be lacking.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a very important point.
If you're not even allowed to have the conversation, because remember, Pearl's argument is that you're not even allowed to have the conversation. Yeah. You're not even allowed to express your opinion. So how are you even going to get to that? And I hear and I share. Well, I understand where Katie is coming from. Where Katie's basically coming from is like, which is the right way of doing things. We should be able to educate them. But freedom of speech is about even having the platform to be able to say those things in the first place without getting a huge backlash.
Yeah.
Sorry, not getting abused. Everyone should get a backlash. If people don't agree with you, that you should get backlash for it. But but people can't even have the conversation without being cancelled. That's the problem. So how are you going to educate someone if you're just canceling them? You see what I'm saying? Like you're not going to get anywhere. You know what I mean?
Jean-Michel, you're back.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think? Do you think the people who deny these kinds of things, should they be cancelled straight out, or should we have opportunity to re-educate them, give them extra information that might or might not change their mind about these things?
So again, I have to make a distinction between what Pearl was doing and this, as an example, Holocaust denial. What Pearl did in that song is she highlighted, and she can show there's an opinion. That's an opinion in terms of a protected group of people who, if you speak ill against them or you question their behavior, or if you question the state of Israel, if you question Jewish influence, that you're immediately cancelled. That's a legitimate opinion to have.
Yeah.
And it's an opinion I share as well. But that's not rooted in hate. That's rooted in an opinion. I think if we're then denying historical events, and I know there was a distinction between things that happened thousands of years ago and people not having an issue with that. I understand that. But if you're talking about things like the Holocaust, that happened, in people's lifetime. Yeah. So the people that actually have family members, parents who were, horrifically killed. So I think there has to be some level of sensitivity where you're protecting people from some form of harm, whether it be physical or psychological, because Holocaust denial is linked to anti-Semitic acts. So people who actually bomb synagogues and all that, or attack Jewish people in the street, they would be people who would also agree with the idea of Holocaust denial. So there is a link between actual harm, physical or psychological, and Holocaust denial. That to me is a separate issue, because there's physical and emotional consequences that can come from that. I think having a discussion about, are certain groups more protected than others, and are there dire consequences? Because as someone made the point about people that denied slavery, what happens to them? That's a good point. Exactly what we're saying. So that highlights that there is an opinion there regarding why some groups are more protected than others. I don't have a problem with that type of conversation at all.
Yeah, it looks like there's a double standard out here.
Yeah, there is. Me personally, I'm never for canceling someone. I'm for if someone is saying historically inaccurate things, I'm all for educating that person, making sure that person understands that what they're saying is historically incorrect. But I don't think you're going to achieve it by canceling people. You're not going to achieve this process of educating people by canceling them, because all you're doing is you're shutting them down.
But Nelson, you got to look at the motive.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry,
I was just going to say the motive. So, Holocaust denial, and I've been around people that have had that thought, and I've seen them online. If you could produce evidence of the Holocaust, it doesn't change their opinion, because this is rooted in some type of conspiracy theory that they have regarding the Jews and the Nazis, etc. So you have to look at the motive behind it. Some of the people are not there to be, they're not willing to be educated. It's coming from a place of hate and discrimination. So when you've got people like that online spewing that you have to be very wary of having people like that having public space, because it's not coming from pure ignorance. It's coming from hate.
I understand that, and to that I would say, that even those people, and I would imagine those people tend to be a minority, not the majority. Even those people, for the sake of freedom of speech, for the sake of freedom of speech, existing or carrying on, I believe those people, even those people that are completely wrong or historically inaccurate or are coming from a hateful place, I think they should still be allowed to speak. Now, why do I say this? Because in the long term, if we are going to validate everyone's sensitivities or historical sensitivities, that if we are going to validate everyone's historical sensitivities, then we're going to have to validate everyone, because every group of every race has gone through something. Now, do I agree that people should be out here stating inaccurate historical facts, so historical things that have happened? No, I don't agree with that. You should be precise and you shouldn't be hateful. But John, you know, we live in a world where some people are going to be hateful regardless. So do we sacrifice freedom of speech because of the minority?
Right. So then would you allow people who support ISIS to talk about jihad against the West publicly online?
But they do.
No, but do you think there should be? Well, I mean, if you look at people who support terrorist acts and promote terrorist acts due to some religious belief, should they be allowed online?
No. Okay. Inciting violence is where I draw the line.
Yeah, but saying that there should be a jihad against the West is inciting violence.
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you. That's inciting violence. But what I was saying is, but they are being allowed to say it.
Yeah, even though
there's also a hypocrisy there, John. There's also a hypocrisy there, because they are being allowed to say it. It's only when it comes to offering an opinion in regards to the Jewish experience that seems to be a problem. But yeah, people. I mean, you've heard Piers Morgan say many times on this channel that these jihadists that come that have accounts online, you know what I'm saying, like they are allowed to incite violence against the to speak violently about the West and so on and so forth. And this is what I'm trying to say.
What's this?
Look at this picture. So there's some groups get to make money from the chopping off hands of the Holocaust in Belgium back in the day. They're actually making money from this. There's no backlash on this. They're just running around free selling Belgian chocolate with people's hands chopped off. Like how that's the level of hypocrisy.
Well, remember, if you look at if you're using Pearl and Nick Fuentes as an example, they also made some very controversial statements about slavery, suggesting that slavery wasn't as bad as think. Yeah. Have you noticed that Piers didn't put up on that? People are not putting.
Sorry, John, you're cutting off, bro.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. If we're going back to Pearl, if you notice when Pearl and Nick had their interview, they made some controversial statements about slavery, suggesting that it wasn't as bad as people think it was. And Piers didn't put her up on that. You notice that? Piers did not pull her up on that statement.
Thank you. Why that?
I can give Mel Gibson. People cancelled Mel Gibson because of what he said about Jews, not that he told his girlfriend, "I wish you were raped by a pack of N-words." So
yes,
right. So it definitely is a double. So this is why I say I agree. I've agreed with that. There's definitely double standards, and they're a protected group.
Thank you.
And the reason why they're protected is because they have power, economic power, and they
that's
own
what
a
it
lot
comes
of these
down to.
networks. Yeah, they own a lot of these networks.
That's what it comes down to. They've got the power, they got the leverage to punish.
There you go.
Guys, let's keep reacting to it.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
The offences caused to the Jewish community. Why was it so offensive?
Dial pads where work comes together.
Oh,
it gives our team one beautiful workspace for anywhere collaboration.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me on and for highlighting this issue, not necessarily highlighting Pearl, but highlighting the issue that what you pointed out is that we're really facing a crisis of societal conscience, where someone like Pearl, who engages in hate speech, and actually the irony is she's complaining about being canceled, and yet she's on your platform. She has millions of viewers on the internet and on social media, and she's complaining about being canceled. The crisis is that this is what is profitable now. This clickbait, this type of racial incitement is profitable on the internet. And, you know, I'm sitting here, I'm listening to Pearl. I don't know if she's just plain stupid or she's actually quite intelligent and knows that what she's doing is so sensational that it's going to make her a lot of money. But I want to say one thing. Pearl will disappear. She will disappear like many others before her, because this is something that's just a moment in time. She's like a train wreck. It's like a car crash. You know, for example, you know you shouldn't be looking at it, but you can't take your eyes off it. But I want to make one more point. I think it's so important, especially on this platform. Hatred is taught. Nobody is born like this. And I talk about it a lot in my book about the dangers of hate education. And it's not something that we can debate, that we can engage in a rational argument with. You can see what her opinions are. She thinks women shouldn't vote, women shouldn't have the right to divorce. She thinks that women shouldn't be able to work. She says these
I didn't say
crazy things about Hitler. But there's no rational, please don't interrupt. There's no rational argument with someone like this. And this is a mistake that my community makes, the Jewish community, very often, that they think they can bring facts to the table, that they can debate somebody like Pearl, and it's, you know, you're going to get somewhere. You're not going to get anywhere. You're going to get somewhere only by shedding the light on this type of bigotry to expose someone like her.
Let me just
do a crazy person that she is.
All right, bro. Let me go back to Pearl. Let me just offer you some advice, right? Because I don't think you're stupid. And in the 2 appearances you've made previously on this program, I thought it was interesting. It was controversial in some ways, but actually a lot of people would have agreed with some of the things he was saying. There's no question about that. But you seem to know where the line was. Someone like Nick Fuentes doesn't know where the line is. Someone like Kanye West, who I interviewed after he went on some weird anti-Semitic trope nonsense. Kanye's been wiped out by what he did, or what he said about the Jewish people, because there are certain things where I am absolutely in support of the concept of free speech, right? But you can't go around telling Jewish people the Holocaust didn't happen as Fuentes. And people like Fuentes does say things like that.
But I'm not him. So you're bringing me up. So it's like,
but when you sing a song,
right,
and you talk about
who
Hitler.
Determines what the line is, Pierce?
Well, I'm asking
who determines? Do you get to determine it?
No, I'm asking you.
Who gets to determine what the line is?
I'm asking you to work out in your head.
I'm saying
you're not a stupid person.
The line.
When you say, I'm not saying Hitler was a good guy, but I want to know why. Right? When you talk about the more conspiracy theories about him I hear, the more I'm like, well, that's interesting. I'm just like agog that even now you don't seem to really grasp why singing that and releasing it to millions of people is incredibly offensive to Jewish people.
I think at the end of the day, Pierce, I don't think it's for you to determine what speech should be allowed and not allowed.
What about you determining? Why did you delete it?
Why did I delete it? Because it was just a headache, Pierce.
Because you knew it was wrong?
I just think it's like, it's not the hill I'm trying to die on.
Right, but why did you choose that hill to die on?
I didn't choose this hill to die on.
You did. You released the video.
I also released 10 different videos about 10 different topics.
But they're not talking about Adolf Hitler, are they?
Are we not allowed to talk about him?
You can talk about Hitler right to the point you say the more conspiracy theories I hear about him.
Look, I think that anyone should be allowed to speak about any conspiracy theory on social media. That is my point. It's not about Hitler. It's not.
If
about
you really
Holocaust.
believe what you did wasn't wrong, you wouldn't have deleted it.
Oh wow!
See, KD gets it.
Don't you think?
I agree with Pearl.
It's an admission of guilt.
If I may just say one thing,
also,
as an attorney, I have to say that I do agree with her. That
just to butt in, you see what this Jewish lady say? She hit a very good point. It's
Is she Jewish?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. But she said she hit a very good point about is Pearl is either very stupid or she's very clever, because people make controversial comments just to get clicks. And actually, when you're in Pearl's position and a lot of the top influencers positions, you are here to make money. And if you say something outrageous, you get those extra clicks, which is gonna turn into extra money. So it's a very important point there, because Pearl is very clever and she's got a good management team. So they sort of know they sort of know what they're doing here.
But first of all,
Pearl is an idiot.
Hold on. First of all, I want to give a shout out to the sign language. I don't know if you lot noticed that. There was some heavy sign language there. You know what I'm saying?
What the shame?
Females will be females. Yeah.
She's right, Nelson. Though she was right on this. She didn't say anything wrong.
John, I disagree, bro. Because if I can't even have the conversation, to me that's a problem. I should be able to have everyone. I'm sorry to say this, yeah, but everyone.
Why did she delete it?
Hold on. Everyone. The reason why she deleted is what she said, because yes, she did put it out there, but she said it was too much of a headache. There's people attacking her and all of that.
Yeah, but at that point, you got to stand your ground, man.
Hold on.
She doesn't believe it.
Yeah.
Hold on. The clickbait thing is a real thing. And people I'm sorry to say it, but everyone, when they choose their titles, when they do all of that, I'm sorry, everyone wants clickbait. Everyone structures their titles around clickbait.
So do you think that's the play all along? Do you think that was the play all along?
Everyone,
that means it's worked, because she's back on Piers and we're talking about her.
Yeah, exactly.
Pearl one wins again.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, to me, that's not an argument against the final point that Pearl's making. The final point is, why can't we have the conversation? Why is the conversation not even being allowed to be had? That's the issue. The issue is, it's not that someone got something historically incorrect.
Yeah, John.
Let me just say this, because this is show. Let me tell you about Pearl is not in a position to do this type of stuff. Let me tell you why. She made some statements in that song. Like, and Piers brought it up when she said things like, "I want to know about Hitler and why," and these kind of comments. I know because I know what these people think, but the conspiracy behind what she's saying. So there's this thinking that the Jews basically kind of deserved what almost happened to them, and Hitler was trying to, do the world some good. That's where that what she's saying comes from, that conspiracy. Now, if that's what she believes, if she really believes that, when Piers asked her to clarify those statements, instead of mumbling and buffooning around and smiling, she would answer the question. Don't put out stuff and then when you're challenged on it, you can't back up your words. Because you can't do it because you're not intelligent enough. Because it is just clickbait. She hasn't got the knowledge to back her, even if it's nonsense. She doesn't even have the basic knowledge to say, okay, well, this is what I meant. I meant this. So don't put out controversial statements. And then when someone gives you the opportunity to clarify them, you start umming and ahhing. And that's what the woman called her out on it. She's like, you're either stupid or you're, it's clickbait. So she is just clickbait, because if she wasn't stupid, she'd be able to articulate it. But did you guys miss this part? The same
no, I would say, John. The same Jewish lady, she plugged her book. Do you see that?
Nah.
What happened? What happened?
She
What
sucked
happened?
her book at the end. So she's doing the same thing too.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard. This is a PR stunt, man. This is,
Yeah, the whole thing, start to finish.
Yeah.
No, hold on. But to be fair, Pearl did allude to the fact that he didn't even finish the song. They didn't even finish, and BBC likes to do these little tricks, okay, where they don't finish the song. They don't they only select certain parts that they're interested in. And in order to create a narrative and make a person look a certain way. She checked them on that very early on the interview, where she was literally telling things. Why didn't you? Because her whole argument is this is about why is it that we can't even have the conversation? That's the whole point. And he's there asking her, oh, but do you really feel like this? But that's not the point. The point is, why can't we even have the conversation? Why do people have to get cancelled for not even being able to have the conversation?
But Nelson,
Why
she
is
can't
the
even have the
conversation not allowed?
conversation. She's not educated enough.
John, can I ask you a question? John, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Bro, when we become big enough, do you think we're going to be allowed to have these conversations?
Yeah, but it won't stop you from physically trying to do it, no?
No. I'm asking you, when we become big enough on the platform becomes big enough, I'm asking you, do you think we're going to be allowed to have these conversations online?
Gotta go rumble.
Yeah, you'll probably be cancelled.
Thank you. That's the point.
But the difference
That's the whole point.
But you still, it won't be your. You won't dampen down. You won't. Okay, let me give you an example. Let's say Nelson, one day you're pulled up on Piers Morgan, and he said, "Hey, I saw that. I'd love to see that.
I'd love to see that as well.
Same.
I saw that video when you said, feminism is destroying the modern world, or some statement, a similar statement. What did you mean?
The world is doomed.
Okay, go ahead, John. Ask me that.
Yeah, and then he asked you that question. I saw this video, Nelson, when you said that's the feminism is ruining the world and men this that. What do you mean by that? And if you start laughing,
here's what I mean by that. This is my point, though. This is the point.
If you start laughing and and ahhing and saying, "Oh well," everyone will be like, "Why is Nelson doing that?" Either that someone gave him those words to say then, or he doesn't believe it. This is the issue I have with Pearl. She says stuff when she's challenged for it, she gets dumb. She can't literally articulate what her point is. So that tells me that for her, it's the grift. It's all a grift.
But what I'm arguing,
you would confirm and clarify what you mean.
Absolutely. But what
she doesn't do it. She never does.
No. What I'm arguing, Michelle. What I'm arguing is, John. What I'm arguing is that the point that I got from what she wrote, the song that she wrote, the point that I got is that she was talking about we are not even allowed to have the conversation. To me, that was the whole idea of it. Like I don't think she was taking sides either for Hitler or the Jews, but I also understand where you're coming from when you say I know about those type of arguments. I know when people bring up those issues, I know exactly where they're coming from. I know exactly what they're trying to say. But the thing is, when I hear everything that she was singing about, what I was hearing is what I'm and please guys correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but I was hearing that she was trying to say that we can't even have the conversation. We can't freedom of speech. We're not even allowed to talk about it.
That's what the song was about.
Yeah, that's the point. About. He's not addressing that point. He's not addressing. He's trying to get her to have a position on either side, but she's just trying to argue that we can't even have the conversation. We're not even allowed to talk about
what is the conversation, and she couldn't answer. He said, "What is the conversation you want to have?" He gave her the opportunity on his show to have that so-called conversation, and when he gave her the opportunity, she didn't say anything.
But John,
she didn't say anything.
John, she's been telling him from the beginning of the interview what her intention was. It was about free speech, but she used Hitler just as an example. it was just an example. She could have used any example.
Stalin, anyone.
Exactly, but it was Hitler. But the point of it was free speech, and Piers is just sticking on Hitler. But it wasn't about Hitler. It was about free speech, and that's why it's just confusing. Like, and now you've got this woman jumping in, like, to take advantage of the whole PR incident, and it's just promotion at this point for everyone.
But the thing about it, Pearl is the wrong person to have this conversation, as I keep saying, because she can't. She doesn't. There's no back. There's no reading behind what she does. So again, I understand what you're saying, that she says her point was about free speech, but when he asked her to articulate. What is it? What is you can't just turn around and make comments and then say, well, it's because I can't have the conversation. And then when someone says to you, okay, well, here's the opportunity to have the conversation. And then you back away from it, you're defeating your own argument. Like, so you're saying I can't have the conversation. You're saying I can't have the conversation. And when someone says to you, okay, let's have it right now.
I hear you.
Say what you want to say, and then you don't do it, you're literally making a fool of yourself.
Yeah, I hear you.
No.
She should have covered more scholarship. She should have covered more scholarship.
No. But she's not presenting an argument for either side. Remember, she's someone who interviews people. Let's say, for example, right? I wanted to know more about the slavery and what happened in slavery, and I don't know everything about it. And I asked someone like John Michel to come over to my platform. All right. Now I don't know everything about it, but I would like to know more about it. You know what I mean? I would like to get someone with a different perspective. You see what I'm saying? So I invite John Michel over to the platform. He comes in, he sits down with me, and we are having that conversation. You know what I mean? I don't have a position either or. I'm just trying to learn more about the situation. But if we can't even get to the point where that conversation can be had online, then what's the point? So the thing is, then that means I can't even get to learn from John Michel about what I want to know about slavery. You see what I'm saying? So which means you're shutting down freedom of speech. You see what I'm saying? So for example, if someone says, oh, the Holocaust didn't happen, all right, I'm gonna invite this person over to the platform and I'll say, okay, why do you think that is? What evidence do you have that that's the case? You know what I mean? I never heard that perspective before. She's basically saying is that's not allowed. That's not even allowed to be had. You're not even allowed to get there. You're not even allowed to learn about different people's opinion on something that happened historically. That's the issue. And to me, or down the line, no one's going to be able to talk about nothing. So him trying to pin it on her or trying to put her on the spot, that's not her lane. She's never said she knew all about the Holocaust. She never even gave an opinion on the Holocaust.
Piers Morgan understands who pays where his revenue comes from and who platforms owned by. And I've said this a long time, because when he had that silly boy on the show, the silly prankster boy, I don't know none of you guys know his name, the boy that was doing silly pranks. For some reason, the little black.
Oh, him, yeah.
So he had him on the show, and I thought that in itself is ridiculous. Why are you having a child like that on this show?
Thank you.
The guy apparently, one of the pranks he did was there was a guy on the street, happened to be Jewish, and he jumped on the guy's shoulders. Okay, that was a stupid prank. Piers kept saying to him, "Why do you jump on that Jewish man's shoulders? Why do you?" And the guy was like, "Why are you focused on the fact that he was Jewish?" And he couldn't answer that question. And that's when I thought to myself, "Oh, you're clever. What you're doing is you're pandering. Piers is pandering to money. Just put it influence and power. That's all he's doing. Yeah, he's pandering. So don't be fooled. This business with him and Pearl is him pandering. He saw it's an opportunity to play the Jew apologist, and he jumped on it. That's it.
But do you know what irritates me more? Because I'll be honest with you, the interview just remains the same, so we don't even have to keep reacting to the interview. But just to finish off, do you know what pisses me off the most is that people, Piers has become this sort of a judge, where anyone who gets cancelled by cancel culture has to come and see Piers, or it has to be regulated by Piers. Who the hell is he? What is it? Is this some kind of like, who gives him the authority to sit in judgment of other people and what other people think is right or wrong? You see what I'm saying? Like, it's sort of like, you've been cancelled, you gotta go see Piers. This happened to you, you gotta go see Piers. You go see. Who made him the judge? It's like they're trying to regulate something.
Well,
it's like
he's definitely got a boss.
He's definitely got what?
He's definitely got a boss.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, that's got something to do with it.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, that's crazy. It's crazy, but like, yeah, he's a puppet. At the end of the day, he's just a puppet. He's got strings being pulled behind the scenes. Who is probably put him up to it, you know, and he's getting paid by them, so he's got to pander to them. So
of course, that's what it is.
In a certain way, I think they all have, even Pearl to some extent.
Yeah, for real.
And this lady as well on the screen now.
Yeah.
Yeah. This could be a whole setup. Like, this could be a whole setup. But you know, that's me anyway.
Yeah, know what I mean, but it was a good reaction, guys, man.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, that was really good.
Good reaction, yeah,
respect, guys, as always.
Yeah, much love.
Yeah,
man.
come on, bro.
Thanks for coming on, John.
Yeah,
thank you for coming on.
I see you guys, I'm gonna react. I'm gonna come on.
Yeah, make sure, bro. Every time, bro. Every time, jump in, brother. Jump in, please.
Best podcast on YouTube.
Love.
Salute, brother. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. Thank you,
all right, brothers. Take care. Yeah.
All right,
take care, bro.
All right.
Yeah, shout out to KD as well.
Shout out to KD as well. Yeah. Shout out to everyone on the chat. Good or bad, guys. Listen, good or bad, whether you agree or disagree. You know what I mean? We want to listen to everyone's point of view. You know what I'm saying? Like, so don't think just because you disagree you're gonna get on our nerves or anything like that. We're not like that. We're trying to have this conversation with you guys. You know what I'm saying? So just engage. You know what I'm saying? Whether you disagree or agree, it doesn't matter. We just want you to engage so we can keep these conversations flowing. Because to be honest, believe it or not, this is what's gonna make these conversations here, these hard conversations, that are going to allow freedom of speech to stay alive. You know what I'm saying? So that's my opinion on that.
Facts.
Yeah, man.
All right, my brothers, man. Salute.
Yeah, salute.
Nice one, guys.
Another one under the belt.
Another live.